I'm Gary Lyon and welcome to Access All Areas. Some incredible results this weekend and what a remarkable finish it was at the MCG yesterday. Hello and welcome to Damien Barrett, Matthew Lloyd and Lordo. Tiger supporters this morning have woken up with tears.
Oh, they would. Heartbreak. You just saw them hanging over the rails of the top tiers of the grandstand and thinking we blew that one, but they would have pinched it, honestly, Damo.
Yeah, they would have. But as a Freo supporter, I think, Gaz, you wouldn't want the ball in anyone's hands other than the man who ended up with it after. Lachie Neale did this, and we're going to go through this piece by piece in a moment. But when Mundy broke away here from Grimes and the siren went, I know he's had some history of missing one after the siren, Lordo, but he's also had history of getting one near the siren against Richmond, and that is just as cool an act as we'll see on an
goal
AFL
of the week.
venue.
I'm not sure who makes those decisions, but if that's not goal of the week, there'll be some questions to be asked. But, Lloydie, what will be happening for those that don't know, the Richmond players will be going into the meeting today and they'll be looking at every sort of vision you can find out to work out what should have happened. And we had a good look at it. First question we asked, what's Daniel Rioli doing there? Look at the back of the square. No one there. That's Dustin Martin on Lachie Neale. They're the two things we want.
OK, for the layman, Rioli, you're saying should be at centre-half back?
Absolutely.
Right.
Him and one or two others. And this one, you just see for a second, Dustin Martin goes towards the footy.
Yep.
Which allowed Lachie Neale to get out.
I wanted to see Dustin Martin with an arm on Neale's chest.
Yep.
They don't need to repeat stoppage there. I'm not sure why he went hunting the ball.
OK, what's the problem here with Mundy getting that space?
Oh, well, Rance got caught thinking there's going to be a long ball down the track, Gaz.
So look at the space. Look at the space, Damo, on the right.
Yep.
All of that space there. You've got Alex Rance who goes deep.
Yes.
So Dylan Grimes...
But is that the wrong decision for Rance?
No, that's fine, because the long ball is where you'd probably expect. But someone, Grimes in this case, had to take the front spot on Mundy.
Yep.
Because that ended up being the only area that he could lead into. So they're all the questions that are being asked this morning.
And the back of the square, Gaz, usually you'd see someone charging in to come up at Lachie Neale.
Right.
There was not one Richmond player doing that.
We had, as we said, we had a good look at this today. We got in this morning, and it was staggering to think that with 21 seconds to go, that I mean, if Ross Lyon said, "What do you want, Ross?" He would have said, "Well, just give us a square. Give us that area in case we do get it. We can run through."
Well, they threw caution to the wind, didn't they, the Tigers, in the last quarter, and then retrieved that 5-goal deficit at three-quarter time. But the Dockers almost gave it to them with a couple of instances which happened late. And just take us through the errors made here, Guess.
21 seconds earlier, this is what we would have been focusing on. The go slow here at Taberner, like 2.5 minutes to go. OK, get the ball moving. In the end, he went slow and to a 50-52 on one, small against two tools. Ross not impressed. But this one, Lordo, would have been the biggest talking point.
Yeah, this one, Hayden Crozier, just giving away an undisciplined free kick. He's saying he hit me first. That means nothing, Hayden, because you reacted, and we've got some great down-the-ground vision that we've come up with. Just right in front of the umpire, just shoves in the neck, face. You cannot do that, and the ball goes back to Richmond.
A minute 22 on the clock, and they're in front. So you got the ball in possession, and your Hayden Crozier gives that free kick away. He's probably the man breathing easiest right now. And
Gaz, the AFL.com.au cover this game beautifully, and within minutes of the siren going, this headline went up, gone in 21 seconds. The discrepancy there between the Richmond celebrations with the ultimately successful Dockers ones, and your mob, Lordo, liked it so much it actually tried to trump it by reducing it by a second.
Yeah, they are trendsetters here, and well done.
Hey, the other game, which has caused all sorts of controversy at the moment anyway, was Carlton and St Kilda at Etihad Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Saints found a way to win. Carlton, competitive again, but it was non-football moments involving Mark Murphy and Jake Carlisle that has us talking.
And that's Carlisle on the ground there, Gaz, and in the white Guernsey approaching him is Murphy, and he gives him a spray. It's a sledge on the back of what he was copying all day himself. And a melee breaks out as a result of Jaron Geary, the St Kilda captain, not liking what his counterpart at the Blues did there on Carlisle, and it took off. And there's going to be ramifications for what happened there, Lordo, by way of a match review panel finding, and I expect thousands of dollars to be handed out. And if you want to look at the instigators of it, well, Murphy, clearly, and also Geary for going in. But the bigger picture is what was being said to Mark Murphy prior to that moment, and obviously also what Mark Murphy said at that moment. And I just think footy needs to get its head around that this has to stop. I mean, footballers are now attuned and are programmed well enough to not racially sledge, to not sexually sledge, to not religiously sledge. We now need to, I think as an industry, need to actually add to this that the highly personal, and we're not going to go into it today, we're choosing not to, we chose not to yesterday, but it's highly and significantly personal sledging directed at Mark Murphy by St Kilda players in that game that ultimately saw that melee break out.
Yeah, and Tim Watson this morning on radio suggested that this has got to be player-driven. Don't worry about the association. Don't worry about AFL House or whoever else. The players have to drive this.
I put it to you, Gary. It should be AFL House driving it. And okay, they're going to hide behind the fact that Mark Murphy doesn't want anything to come of this, and that's Mark Murphy's right. But as an industry, Lordo, what is it that we're ultimately prepared to tolerate? There's no other workplace that I can think of in the world, and no one who's said anything to Mark Murphy on the weekend. I don't want them to be named and shamed on this matter because it's gone on, but let's use this as the line in the sand moment for this type of sledging, guys. I know that ultimately people say what happened on the field stays in the field, and if you're not going down those religious, sexual or racial paths, it's open slather. Well, I don't think it is anymore. But Mark Murphy was seriously agitated and distressed by what happened.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that as well. But what you are then suggesting is then you're becoming the arbiter of what is acceptable and what's not. You've either got to go zero tolerance.
But it's not acceptable. We'll have a press conference and we need to show respect for each other. It's not acceptable. There's no definition under which that's acceptable, is it? Apart from the heat at the moment.
Is if you can't walk up to the player after the game and shake his hand, or he is refusing to shake your hand, you've probably crossed that line because, you know, when Mark Murphy's never going to talk to you again for what you've said, I reckon you've probably crossed that line. And if you're Fremantle's CEO, what would you say to your... They play Carlton this week. Yeah. You know, do they say, boys, we don't go down the track?
They've got to be better than that.
Hey, we've got to move on. We've got other things. But very quickly, Mark Murphy doesn't want to go any further, but you're suggesting maybe it will.
Oh, the AFL has to, guys. When they hand out these fines and tell us why there's match review panel sanctions... With the melee. Tell us why. And again, I don't want there to be a statement, so-and-so said this to Mark Murphy, but let's be brave enough to have the conversation in a public way that says, that's it, and we're better than that.
Well said. Let's move on. Melbourne, just probably the upset of the year for mine. If not their best win in the last 10 or 15 years, it's in the best 3 or 4. They went over to Adelaide without Jesse Hogan, late withdrawal, and look at this, Lloydie. There's nothing special. The way they went after Adelaide and gave them no time or space was the key to this. North Melbourne did it the week before. They went to school on it, and they did it arguably as well, if not better. And
what's great about it, Gary, is they were down in the game at certain stages. So to come back when it's 40,000 parochial Adelaide fans, that was a brilliant win from Melbourne. Full credit to them. And when you take out a player like Rory Sloane, well, the thing about it is Mackay, who have been praising 12 possessions, Cameron we've been praising 10 possessions, Hampton 15, Otten 15. So when you stop the source player getting it, there's a flow-on effect.
And look at this. I mean, the pressure here that they put on. As soon as Adelaide got the footy, there was no space, no time, no time to compose themselves, lace out footy going forward. I mean, look at this. It was relentless. And Melbourne had to be given credit. They need to do it again.
With what North did to Adelaide in round 7 at Hobart, it was almost attributed to the first goal, 10-goal, 4 scoreline of North Melbourne with the wind. We've got a problem now with Adelaide, don't we? On the back of what we saw now 2 weeks in a row.
Well, in as much as that they've had 2 really poor weeks, and I think every club in the competition has had one, if at least one. So it's how they rebound, how they react to it. But I think from a Melbourne supporter's point of view, they'd be wrapped with Simon Goodwin's willingness. Once they got 28 points down, he said, well, I'm not going to go with what we've done. And he threw the team round. And I loved that as a supporter. It was Tom McDonald went forward and became a real target. It was Petrarca went into the middle of the ground. I mean, Viney was working his guts out, Oliver and Jones, and then Petrarca just blew the thing open.
He played there before. In a strange way, are you no clearer? And here's Petrarca as we talk about this, guys. And he played, would you say, his best game for the Demons? In the midfield and kicking goals.
Look at this sort of stuff. These aren't just clearances. And this is against Source Jacobs against Pedersen, Lloydie. So they'd centre clearance domination. This kid just changed the whole sort of the tone of it.
If you're a young kid watching this, just watch the way he never falls over Christian Petrarca. There's players just drop left, right and centre, but he just never loses his feet. Laird there, great player, falls over, Petrarca doesn't. And when we first saw him got to Melbourne, he couldn't get through his first few fitness sessions. He's becoming fitter by the week. He's an impact player, that forward midfield player that coaches just love.
You've seen it around the ground here, and this is now up in effectively the goal square, Lordo, just standing his ground on a bigger opponent. Are you any clearer, guys, in what Melbourne did yesterday as to where they are in the big picture? Because yesterday almost fitted into what you were saying last week. There was no expectation, or the weekend was fitting into that.
Yeah, and the week previous, I said they're top 4 capable. Now, that's a footy, and then we saw that on the weekend. So the question will be answered at about 5:30 or 6 o'clock next Sunday at the MCG after they play
a team they're met to
the Kangaroos, who they'll go into as heavy favourites.
Hey, the Cats, though, Lordo, were ordinary for the 3rd week in a row. Disgraceful was a word that Chris Scott used to describe them post-match after that 3rd loss, and a lack of tackling pressure in the first quarter particularly. Yeah,
14 tackles, just unheard of in a game of football. And Essendon had 30 more disposals, yet had laid 50-odd tackles and the Cats had 14. At one stage, Geelong had laid 21 tackles. Zach Merritt had 11 himself, so that showed the attitude. Just this, if you don't want to lay pressure up the field, but you've got men guarding patches of grass and not men, this is what happens. Lonergan's guarding territory. I don't blame the defence, though. I blame the forward line and the midfield up the field, who for 3 weeks in a row have been lazy, they're slow. So if you're a slow side and you're not laying any pressure, teams like the Bombers will take you to go to town on you.
And look, they play Friday night against the Western Bulldogs at home, to open their stand. You can almost guarantee that they will be as ferocious as they've been since any stage, because they've been embarrassed with their performance over the last
Can you just flick the switch though now?
Well, you watch, Damo. You watch what happens.
Yeah, I'm not as convinced anymore.
Okay, you watch what
on the back of 3 weeks.
I'm not saying they'll beat the Western Bulldogs, but a 13 tackle half,
right,
where a dozen players didn't have one, I'll guarantee you that doesn't.
I'm keen to see.
I'll almost guarantee you those 12 players have at least a tackle on the first one.
This is a shocker, this one, from their captain, Selwood. Andrew McGrath's his opponent. This chase would embarrass Joel Selwood. He is the heart and soul of Geelong, and he wouldn't like this piece of vision that he just produced on a young kid. And
just didn't run hard enough.
Just didn't run hard enough. Did not want to defend there at all.
And you know how he's going to respond. And I'm sure you'll give me that.
I'll give you Selwood. I'm not sure I'll give you too many more.
Yeah. So
apart from the obvious,
let's watch and see what happens Friday night. It's going to be fascinating. Angus Brayshaw, a bad story on the weekend. Another concussion, and Damo, he's got. I would think. Right now, you take the pressure off this kid. He's still a young lad. I'd say take the year off.
Yeah.
Go and get yourself right. Do some things that you've always wanted to do in the winter, European summer maybe, and then get yourself right for next year.
Yeah, I think you've got one more go at it, don't you, Gaz? And I'm actually with you on that theory, given that what happened to him last year was serious enough, Lord, for him to miss a lot of footy. And for him to talk about being in a dark room and dark places inside your mind as a result of that, and then two, again, incidents this year of that head concussion.
And we're diagnosing from afar, which is always difficult.
Yeah.
I never second-guessing him. But just on the surface, that would be take the pressure off the kid and say have the year off. But look, we'll let the Melbourne people, they'll make the best decision. Let's whip through a few. Stevie J was written off, said he should retire. Almost guaranteed that he's going to have an impact, Lordo.
He got back to basics, and he was emotional after the game here, where he said, Leon Cameron said to me, you've got to get front and square, you've got to work hard. He had 24 disposals, took 7 marks. This luck, things just don't happen. Things happen when you work hard.
Yeah, and he's hit that ball as hard as he's ever hit a ball, have you, Lotto?
He did.
And, gee, he was happy.
Oh, yeah. That is hard to stop.
This close-up tells you the emotion of when you're coming to the end. There's nothing worse than people telling you you're finished. And when you do have a moment like that, and you had a good day, then it just boils over. And he would have known there was 8 seconds to go.
Hey, tell us, should the umpires have played, though, a free kick against some of these Giants players who appear to have hands in back on Collingwood players, Lotto?
Technically,
Cameron,
it's there, but you'd want to be a courageous umpire to take Stevie's moment away from him.
But again, have a look. Cameron,
of course it's
he puts his shape. I mean, that's a free kick
on the wrong side, that umpire.
Oh, yeah, it's an easy decision to not make, I think, Lotto.
Damo, you've got nice hair, albeit...
it's marching back, yes.
Lordo's got a very nice coif. Alex Fasolo went after the Giants boys' hair ties. Yeah. You just don't do this.
He went Hilmenberg first, upset him. So Davis, the captain, tried to protect his guy in as well.
Look at Davis for a moment. He looks at the umpire and as if to say he's touching my hair. And then he said, I can't do that. That is funny. Hey, time for our lift hard hitting moments. And I think I've got you two covered in this particular occasion. This is a wee little man up against a very big man. Caleb Daniels' tackle on Nathan Vardy, sensational. Bang, down he goes.
Sling tackle?
About 40 kegs difference.
Oh, what about this one, Gaz? I'm going to the big man return here with Mummy getting his former teammate Adams.
Oh, he does one a week, Shane Mumford. Real hard hit. Former teammates too, those
Didn't shirk at Adams either, never does.
And there's 2 Jacks. One's a harder Jack than the other Jack. And that is Jack Redpath. Actually, look at this. Watch Darling. It wasn't that hard a hit, was it?
Didn't get him in the head. That's a Jack in the box. Very nice work by you. Well done, both lads. It's going to be a very interesting week. Thank you for joining us on Access All Areas. Have a good week. We'll catch you next Monday. Goodbye.